Do you like movies and games also? Listen, so much more they all know. Vyse, Pyro, Lotus, and friends, welcome to Corrective Consciousness.
Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 79, the podcast about our lives and love of pop culture. I'm your host, VyseTheBold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And PyroJackFrost, back from the dead.
Oh, man. Well, let's get this thing going here. We got a new year, the first one of the new year as a regular episode, so I'm really excited, and let's get this going.
That's right.
So, Pyro, why don't you take over first? Because I am desperate to hear about all the stuff you did while you were away.
It's just like I mentioned at our MagFest special. Even though I haven't been on for a while, I really haven't been doing much. I mean, I have a few things I want to talk about, but it's not like I've had a lot of time to work on it. I've been adulting, and adulting sucks.
It's no good.
Yeah,
it's no good.
I want to start with my usual Granblue fantasy update. It's probably the only thing that I've been consistently playing since the last time I've been on the podcast. I'm still enjoying it. I'm still unlocking new characters. It's actually really cool because they had a New Year special where every day you had a chance of pulling because you draw characters and they gave you just free draws out the wazoo. So I got a lot of new characters, and it's been just grinding, but it's fun. It's a fun grind for me. It's mindless, something to do on the bus, something to do on the couch at night or whatnot. There have been a few times and I'm I'm done with it, but it's not grindy in a boring sense. So it keeps me interested.
Yeah, that's good. Do you think that out of the cell phone games that you played over the years, is it one of your favorites, or is it just your current one?
I actually would say it's one of my favorites because it has a lot going for it, and the grind doesn't feel completely out there. There have been many games where I've had to grind, phone games, or that the two things that a lot of games have that I've played that made me stop is their reliance on purchases, or playing a shitload amounts of time during an event to get everything you want.
Sure.
And then there's really not much to do once you got to the grind. Gotcha. So, for instance, there's the two games I want to mention. First is I forget what it's called, Dragon Blaze, I think was the last one I played, and that was one where once you get to certain parts of the story that you need to grind to beat, that's all there is to do is grind. There's no events every week. They add stuff every now and then, but again, those are bigger grinds, so there was really not much there. Another game that I played that I stopped was the Transformers. There was a Transformers mobile game, which was really cool. They were chibi Transformers, and then you could tap on them to transform them. And they had different stats, whether they're in robot mode or car mode, that you use to attack the enemies. The problem with that was it had events every week, which was nice, but if you weren't part of a group and grinding with that group, you weren't going to get the robots in that week. Whereas in Granblue, they have events every week. The stories in the events you can go through without any issue. They give you a free character every event that as long as you play with them long enough, you get to keep them. And the only things that you would miss are equipment. But even then, if you play just a decent amount, you can get the equipment that's exclusive to that event pretty easily. So they do enough that, and they have so many characters that people pay to draw it. The whales will pay to draw it all the time. And also there's every now and then they release different costumes for characters that are ridiculous because they cost $30 each for a costume and 10 pulls, which is going to get you nothing. But hey, people buy all that stuff, so that keeps it going for cheapos like me to get all the free stuff that's possible. and I think that's why I've stuck with it for so long.
Oh, I wanted to ask you, speaking of Transformers, did you hear that Activision took all of their games off of digital distribution?
I did. I'm glad that I bought. I'm kind of disappointed because I didn't buy like I think it was called Fall of Cybertron. I beat War for Cybertron, and I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't like amazing, but it wasn't bad. But I put off buying Fall for Cybertron for too long, and now I won't be able to get it on Steam. But whatever. I have Devastation, which I think is the best Transformers game.
That's the Platinum one, right?
Yeah, and if I ever want to go back and have robots beat up each other, I can just go play that. So.
Yeah, and I think those were physically released on consoles too. So I think all of those were.
I think they were. Yeah, like I'm pretty sure I remember seeing them
were
shopping like on PS3 and 360.
It would have just been nice to have them for Steam.
Yeah, on print all the size.
Games on the same place.
They didn't make a big deal about it. Usually they make an announcement like, hey, this is the last week, or hey, this is the last day.
Yeah, you'd think that'd be a good chance to get one to buy.
I think it was because they lost their license. So they just were like, whatever. And also they probably weren't making enough money on them that they just didn't feel it was worth it.
There's some speculation going around that it's because of the movies. The movies have been declining in popularity, and the last one didn't do well at all.
Yeah, apparently even internationally, it was like, okay.
Yeah, like, how about you make a good movie?
That's the thing, and like what a lot of people seem to still not understand. When I say a lot of people, I mean like I guess in Hollywood, yeah, it's like the amount of money you put into a movie is not necessarily directly proportional to the quality of the movie.
No, it's diminishing returns. I mean, the Marvel movies are good because they evolve over time. They've gotten to become like more comedy films than action films. They used to have like slight bits of comedy, and now they're like almost full on comedies.
No, but even then, also like in terms of I say low budget, but like by Hollywood standards, of course, in Hollywood even low budget movies are high budget, but like proportionally low budget Hollywood movies can still be amazing. Like you don't need to just like throw untold billions of dollars on a movie to like make it happen.
Yeah. All you need is Orson Welles as a giant plant-eating toy.
No, what you need is Orson Welles trying to advertise peas.
You're such pests.
That is like that's one of those insults that like actually just because nobody ever says it, that actually kind of cuts deep.
Kind of burns.
Yeah, you're such a pest. It's like wow, ooh.
Yeah, kids, look up Orson Welles and peas on YouTube when you get a moment.
And and after you do, look up the Pinky and the Brain sketch, because I think they changed like literally one word for like censorship, but otherwise like they changed two words. They weren't gonna have Brain say that he'll go down on you, but it was like eat cheese or something like that, but like otherwise it is like I think literally word for word. Like it's astounding.
Well, so, now that we've hijacked your
your now that we've been talking, anyway, so some other things I've been doing. The big one I want to mention is Lotus Prince and I will probably talk about this later, if not this episode, then later on this week in Recon. But we recently heard a bunch of Final Fantasy music. I'll just say that. I actually today recently started replaying Final Fantasy VII just because I'm like, oh, I want to play Final Fantasy again.
Yeah, and like again, I'm not going to go into detail on this either until we're ready for it. But in all seriousness, like that was getting me in the mood to like play at least Final Fantasy VI, or like because I never did beat that, and just that like. Obviously, you're there for Final Fantasy stuff, but it really got me in the mood for Final Fantasy.
So I've been playing that.
I've been getting in the mood to play the best of Final Fantasy. 12 is getting released on PC soon, so
and the best version of 12 as well.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the best games in the series by a lot of people's standards. So I'm probably going to run through 4, 5, 6, 10. And 12.
Well, you might want to do 9 as well. Like I wasn't big.
9 is my favorite.
Yeah, I wasn't big on 9's aesthetic, but I remember like back when we were in college. This is before like 11 through 15, so I don't know the verdict now. But at least then, I think 9 was like the creator of Final Fantasy's favorite Final Fantasy, and from everyone who's actually played it says it's like amazing.
Oh, well, I must also tell our audience that I have played 7. It's the only one I've beaten, so like don't haze me for that.
The only one I've beaten is 5, unless you count Mystic Quest,
which is also hilarious. But
remember 5 and Mystic Quest? Those exist. No. What?
I haven't beaten any of the ones before 7. Actually, I played all the ones before 7, but I haven't beaten any of them.
Yeah, I played 4 and 6, but I never made it to the end credits.
The creator for Final Fantasy made Lost Odyssey, which is apparently a great game as well.
Yeah, that's a good game. That's a really good game. Yeah.
Wasn't that the game?
But
with
it's
like
only for
10...
Xbox.
No, I was gonna say, wasn't Lost Odyssey?
Xbox 360.
Yeah, the 360. Wasn't Lost Odyssey like 2 or 3? Like
5.
Didn't it have like 1,000 discs? Yeah.
5 discs. Yeah.
God damn.
It was a good game though. If not a little long-winded, it was good though.
Even on PS3,
it might have taken like 2 Blu-rays.
Yeah, no, it was because he didn't want to. It wasn't because the game size by itself. It's that he didn't want to have compressed resolution.
Well, no, I heard that was basically the case for not resolution, but like the first Titanfall. Apparently, that game was crazy big, but literally half of the game's data was like uncompressed audio. I think.
Ugh. Yeah. Which is like, I don't need FLAC files for that. Get out of here.
Dude, it's FLAC or nothing for me, man. Give me that FLAC Titanfall experience.
We should release in FLAC so you can delete it every single episode when you're done with it.
Yeah, really. Are you ready to record next week's podcast? No, I gotta like clear my cache.
I need to hear Vyse's sinuses while he's talking. But yeah.
All right, that was the second tangent we've been on.
Yeah.
Why don't you guys just tell the audience the rest of what I did?
All right, well, it says in the notes something about Tales from the Borderlands, so...
so the next game that I played was that.
Sorry, Mr. Pyro.
The next game I played was that.
I got that... I think I got it for free. Oh, it was during one of the Humble Bundles. I got all the Telltale games
nice
for like $15, and I've been meaning to play Tales from the Borderlands since I really loved the Borderlands story.
Oh yeah, I hear it's a good one too.
Yeah, I was
it's
gonna
good.
say,
I'm 2 chapters in. It's like 5 or 6 chapters long. It's pretty funny. I kind of get annoyed sometimes with the QTE stuff, but overall, like I think it's a really good entry to the series. And I wasn't really gonna play the third Borderlands game. I forget what it's called.
Pre-sequel?
Borderlands.
Yeah,
the pre-sequel. Yeah, I wasn't really gonna play that, but after. Because I heard it wasn't like that great. It was pretty mediocre. But after playing Tales from the Borderlands, I may go back to that just because...
You're in the mood.
I'm in the mood, and a lot of the characters from it are in Tales. Because it's... Tales, it goes pre-sequel, then... Does it go... Yeah, it goes pre-sequel, then Tales, then one... Or then... I don't know the order, actually. Is it one pre-sequel... One pre-sequel, Tales 2, I think, is the order.
Pre-sequel, I believe, is... The
it's
reason why they didn't name it 0 is because it's between 1 and 2.
Yeah, and I think Tales takes place after pre-sequel.
Okay.
So,
right.
But yeah, it makes me want to go back into that world at least, even if the story isn't that great. The world I really enjoy, and I really am hoping to make a third one eventually.
I really liked 1 when I played it, and I got through most of the DLC, but like Mad Moxie, like I stopped there because like I couldn't get through.
That was a really bad DLC.
It wasn't. It was a great character, but like terrible DLC. It was really awful. So I stopped there, but I did all the story-based ones.
Mm-hmm. And I've been making my way through Darksiders 2. I definitely am going to beat that. Maybe not until 3 comes out, but because I do like the world of Darksiders.
Is that the one
and
where
I'm really
you're
upset. The second one is Death, first is War.
Okay.
And then 3 is, I think, when you are...
Pestilence?
That's not one of the... They renamed 2 of the riders.
Glory or Conquest?
Nope, it's War, Death, Strife, and...
Strife, okay.
What's...
Famine?
Nope, because they couldn't make a good rider out of Famine, Pestilence.
Well, yeah.
Or Quick, Conquest, take all their food!
God damn it!
Fury, that's what it is. Fury, and Fury is the female rider.
Okay.
And that's who the third one's going to be about, is Fury. And Strife is like a gunslinger kind of character.
That's pretty sweet.
So yeah, I'm really interested in beating 2, and looking forward to 3, and then the other stuff what I've been doing a lot actually since I've been off last time is playing a lot of board games instead of video games. Like, one of the things that took up a lot of my nights was organizing my board game collection. My girlfriend and I have a label maker that we borrowed from a friend of a friend. And I bought a lot of baggies, and we were like bagging all the tokens and cards of games and putting labels on them, so they're really easy to organize and take out. And it was kind of fun, even though like that would be a night is organizing like 3 games. It was actually really fun to get them all organized. But the big games that I've been playing actually were a lot of campaign games. There's one that's like a dungeon crawler, one that is like a Magic the Gathering kind of game, and one that's like a cooperative game that I've been campaigning with like several people. It's great because it gets you to come back, but then the bad thing is you really can't continue it until you make sure you have all those people together.
Well, yeah, so, that was like I don't think we mentioned this in the podcast before, but that's kind of like when we were playing Pathfinder.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I still own that.
Yeah.
But the one that I've been playing the most recently that I would want to talk about, that I actually mentioned on the MagFest special, was the Arkham Horror card game that I bought. It's a co-op card game that's really cool because each person has like a deck, which is their investigator, and each investigator's deck has weaknesses in it. That when you draw that weakness, you have to play it, and like a bad thing will happen to show that not all the investigators are like perfect people. And they have like negative, like one is like paranoia, where you discard all your resources that you use to like buy cards. One is hypochondria, which whenever you get dealt a horror damage, you deal 1 damage to yourself. So it's really cool because it's very thematic about that. And like you go through the campaign, which is also decks, and like it's a really cool mechanics, but I think I would take too long to have to describe all that, so I'm just going to say that it's a good game. And if someone's looking for a card game that's like has a campaign that you play cooperatively, I would definitely recommend the Arkham Horror card game.
Nice.
So that's a bunch of stuff that I've been doing.
I like the card games too because they tend to be quicker than the board games.
It's a lot easier to set up and clean up too, usually.
Yeah, the board games are fun as hell, but they're a really big deal.
Like I like the Bloodborne card game. That was a lot of fun to me.
That was pretty rad. Yeah. I love how we only played 1 campaign, but the boss we drew was freaking Mikolash. And like if you know the actual Bloodborne game, man, fuck that guy. He's one of those runaway bosses, and like you don't want that.
That was really annoying. And that was like one of those times. I remember when I fought him, and it's like because his battle takes so long.
Yeah.
But basically running and beating a lot of smaller enemies to get to him, and then you actually fight him. And I was like, please don't kill me, please don't kill me, please don't kill me. Because I do not want to go through all that all over again.
No, you do not.
He was actually not that bad, I felt, but like I was.
Well, yeah, but the pressure's on because it takes so long, so you don't want to choke.
Yeah, I felt like so nervous the whole time because I'm like, I really do not want to go through all of this.
Yeah, well, it's like in Demon Souls, like the final proper fight of Demon Souls is a pretty difficult boss, but just getting to him, even if you run past everybody, takes like several minutes just to get to his room, and it's like, come on. And then you finally get to him when he one-shots you or something. It's like, great.
Yeah, and I'm actually looking forward to when you get Lotus Prince, when you get the Dark Souls board game, because I do want to try that out.
Yeah, no, I actually have the base game. I just need to get everybody together to play it. Although there are expansions coming, like I have to wait for them to finish making them and shipping them out, but I got the Darkroot Forest expansion, etc. Sorry, go ahead.
I feel like the amount of time it'll take us to beat the base game.
Yeah.
The amount of times we actually find.
Yeah.
The amount of time it takes for us to actually hang out, I feel like by the time we finish the base game, you would have gotten all the expansions by then.
Yeah, right. And part of me is excited, like, just to look at the figures. Even if we don't play, it's like, look at this.
Hey, maybe next time we hang out, if either of you don't mind opening it up, we could try it.
Yeah, no, that'd be cool as hell.
I'm moving into my girlfriend's apartment, so I should actually have more free time because I won't be traveling back and forth to her place, and we'll also be closer to round 1, so it might be a better base of operations for everybody, and it's about the same amount of time for travel for everybody.
Interesting.
Yeah, because it's in PA, but if you go the same. If you're coming from up north, it's basically evens out, because all you have to do is cross a bridge somewhere in between.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's going to be a good time.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Was that? Do you have anything?
Yeah,
else,
that's
Pyro?
all from me. Nope.
Okay.
I mean, there's probably a lot of things I'm forgetting, but it's been how many weeks since I've
Yeah.
Oh, I know, right?
an actual CoreCon. I don't want to take up too much time, and I don't remember most of the things. So
No, sure.
You got plenty of good stuff there. Jeez.
Yeah. All right, so as for me, I actually, for once, because usually I say, oh, I'm playing the same game or whatever, but for once I actually have multiple things to talk about. For one thing, I played some more Thumper, and so the thing with Thumper is that the first level introduces you to the basic mechanics of the game, when you're just cruising down a rail, and when you see a little glowy as you pass over it, you press X, so you get that little beat. If you miss it, you miss it. There are also little horizontal beams in front of you sometimes. You have to hold X to go through them. If you don't, then that actually counts as a dangerous obstacle, and you'll take a hit, and you only can get hit twice before dying. Or you only can get hit twice. Like, the second hit, you're dead. So you're only allowed one free hit. And then there are also walls where, like, on turns, so you turn away from the wall. So if the wall is on the right, then you hold left and X, and you kind of scrape the wall. So that's level 1. It introduces you to the basic concepts of the game. Level 2 introduces you to sort of jumps, where there are beds of spikes, and there's a little glowy in front of them to show you your jump points. So you hold up an X, so you hover over them. That's the main new mechanic. Level 3 starts to crank things up, because this isn't a new mechanic, like for gameplay, but the camera starts to tilt sometimes, and it can make things a little disorienting. And also, in addition to the jumps, now sometimes there are endpoints to the beds of spikes where you don't just wait for your hover to wear off, you press down an X to stomp back down, and this sends out a shockwave in front of you, which can break down metal shields, because some bosses have those. So even though bosses always take 4 hits to kill, with these metal shields, like, you have to break the shields to get to hit the boss, so they basically have like 8 or 12 HP now. And then level 4 is bonkers, because now there are enemies introduced, all like on rails. You have to move away from them, and that's the main thing. There are now multiple rails, so you can actually jump back and forth across 3 or 4 rails. The game is just audio surf now, so there's all that to consider, plus the aforementioned obstacles. It's ridiculous. And there are 9 levels. I don't know what the hell 5 through 9 have, but 4 killed me a lot. So 4 was a freaking trip. So I kind of half look forward to seeing what more there is, because the game is cool as hell to hear if you play it right. A lot of obstacles,
but it's hard as balls.
Like, the thing is, a lot of obstacles you can avoid or just pass through without taking any hits. It's just like, but now you're not as cool. But I had
sounds way better.
yeah, it sounds better if you go for the obstacles, but like, it got to the point where I was like, nope, I'm just gonna let these slide so I could clear my head and watch out for the dangerous stuff. Like, level 4 was really distracting, and I died on the boss multiple times. So that's Thumper. Furi. Oh man, I basically beat Furi. The thing with Furi is there's an after credit sequence where you're given an option, and that's not how Furi plays. Furi is almost like a twin-stick shooter sometimes, but when you get to the end of the game, this thing offers you a choice, and option 1, you just end the game right there with one of the endings, and option 2, you basically give the middle finger to the person giving you the choice, and you have one more boss. So I'm doing that, so when I beat that, I'll have gotten an actual ending. But in any case, I at least beat the regular bosses, some of which were really, like, these bosses are all super cool and very much their own thing. I've said this before, but I'm reminded of No More Heroes, where every boss is completely different, and it's super cool. Except this is more...
my kind of game.
Yeah, and it's even more efficient than No More Heroes, because you literally press X to let your character walk on a rail to the next boss. And when you beat the game, maybe even before you beat it, I think you're allowed to refight select bosses, so you could just do nothing but the bosses if you want. There's no real gameplay between them. It's just giving the player a chance to chill out as the character walks from point A to point B. So the game's already pretty efficient, but it can be even more efficient. And again, the music is just great, like all the time.
It's amazing.
Oh man. All right, so then I played some more Eternal Ring. And, like, even though I'm the one who chose to play it, like, every time I mention that I played more Eternal Ring, it just sounds like a joke. Like, that's what you're playing. Like, and, like,
what was Eternal Ring again?
Eternal Ring is, do you know the Kingsfield games?
Yes.
So, the first-person PS1 games and that one for the PS2. Eternal Ring is PS2 that, where the controls are super clunky. There's no joysticks. Left and right turn you, L1 and R1 strafe, and L2 and R2 look up and look down. It is clunky as hell, and it's a first-person experience.
It's basically like one of the predecessors to Dark Souls before.
Yeah, Kingsfield is known as the Dark Souls before Dark Souls, but Eternal Ring also kind of is, sort of, although its gameplay focuses on rings, except this is something that amused me. In Dark Souls, you could equip 2 rings, and in later Dark Souls, I think you're allowed more rings. Pyro, you've played 3. How many rings can you equip in that one? Like 4 or 5?
4, I believe.
It is 4? Because Eternal Ring, if you really want, you can have a ring for each finger. Like, there are 5 magic rings and 5 attribute rings. So magic rings give you spells. So, like, you could equip the Fireball ring to cast Fireball, and the other 5 rings just increase your stats in whatever proportions you set them for. The game is largely about creating and synthesizing rings. And I found the freaking Blighttown level. That was super fun. Did you guys play the original Dark Souls? Do you know what Blighttown? You know Blighttown? Blighttown is ass. Like, you're not perpetually poisoned, but if you ever
might as well be.
Yeah, if you ever walk in the swamp water, then you're poisoned. Like in Demon Souls, there was a place like that where most of a particular level was poison swamp water.
I feel like there's an area like that in all of the Souls games. Because there was one in Dark Souls 3, and I believe there was one in Bloodborne as well.
There's even one in Demon Souls, the swamp in that.
Well, that's what I was talking about. That one sucked. Blighttown's actually not as bad as it looks. You don't have to explore the swamp. You can just run right to the boss and deal with a little bit of the swamp. But Demon Souls, you have no choice. But in Demon Souls, it was bad. Because, like, when you walk into the swamp, you have a little poison meter that builds. And when it fills, you are poisoned until it very slowly drains, and you keep healing yourself, or until you cure your poison status, at which point it just refills. So the guide I was using for Demon Souls said, fuck it, like, you're gonna get poisoned. Just equip multiple health regenerative items so your health regeneration slightly offsets the poison. So there's actually a place in Eternal Ring, which, forget the swamp water, just the dungeon is poisoned. And I really, really hope that you have a protection spell ring. Oh, no, yeah, you do. The level before that, a guy gives one to you, because that would be majorly unfair. But, like, as soon as you walk in, you're given a few seconds, and then it's just like, you're poisoned, by the way. And it's like, oh, man. So the whole dungeon is poisoned. So that, like, as long as you can keep casting Protect and restoring your magic, it's not terrible. But if you don't know this going in, it is bad. So that's kind of where I am right now. I just got through the area, I made it to a town, but I'm going to have to go back in really quickly to go to the dungeon in it. Like, there's a hole in it, and it leads you to the next dungeon, which I don't believe is poisoned, but just on principle, could you please not give me a poison area from software? You're killing me. So that's Eternal Ring.
I have to say, I did watch your first stream, and
oh yeah,
it gave me some good entertainment while I was sick.
I'm glad to hear it. Yeah,
I sat back and I relaxed. And I was
so if you were watching that, then you saw me pick up a magic ring. How hard is that thing to see?
It's like Hunt the Pixel. It's
dude.
awful.
Yeah, like in the Souls games, like items very obviously glow. Obviously.
Good fucking luck.
Yeah, you don't know what they are, but you can pick them up. But any item in Eternal Ring, if you kill an enemy, they drop them, so you probably know approximately what they are. But if you are really not paying attention, you're going to have to kind of just look at the ground. And magic rings are tiny, and they're like the foundation of half of the game with your casting spells. The first ring in the game on the beach, the guy...
Oh, yeah, that was fucking nuts.
The guide told me it's in the northernmost part of the beach, or the northeasternmost part of the beach, but I was like, relative to where? Because I found it
specifically.
In the stream, I went right up and picked it up. But this was after.
Is it like a dark game?
Well, you can.
Is that what's hard to see, or
no,
is it just a
that
really
was
small item?
that was not the problem. Yeah, it's a small item. Because the thing is,
it's just really tiny, and like you're looking at a gray piece of rock.
Yeah,
and it's like a little tiny speck of gold.
You are not going to figure this out,
and it's not glinting or anything.
That's the thing. And it's tiny. Like because I didn't know what to look for, so I couldn't find it. Like on the stream,
and you're seeing the side of it too.
Yeah, on the stream, I walked right up to it, and I was like, "Can you find it?" Bet you it's hard. But like before I decided I would stream the game, I was originally going to play Eternal Ring just for myself, just to get through it. I spent like 15 minutes looking for this stupid ring, and I'm like, there's only so many places to look. I must have scanned the whole beach already. Two guys tell me it's there. I'm not seeing it. Like, it's just like, honestly, Pyro. Yeah, Pyro, go to my stream. Just watch the first like 5 minutes. Like,
okay.
Just like
I'll do it right now.
Yeah, right now. It is
bullshit.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Most of the rings you find are in chests, so it's just like open the chest, boom, ring. But like the loose ones, good luck. So anyway, that's Eternal Ring. The last thing I did, other than the Final Fantasy thing, we'll talk about that later, was I finally started playing Yakuza Kiwami, and surprise, the game's fantastic to play. It's Yakuza 1 again. So for once, I actually know the plot going in. And it's really interesting because I'm seeing old cutscenes from 10 years ago, because it's like a 10-year anniversary thing. I'm seeing cutscenes from the PS1 game, right? But then now they're all in HD. The scenes are entirely redone and done like Yakuza 3 and up style and everything. But people are dropping names, and I actually know who these people and these things are. Like, I actually know what going in. Because here's the thing. The gameplay has been largely improved, but Yakuza Kiwami assumes that you're already a Yakuza fan. So they do things that you might not appreciate if it's your first game in the series. For example, they have a new awesome mechanic called Majima Everywhere Mode. It's actually called Majima Everywhere Mode. Now, the thing is, the first cutscene when you meet Majima in PS2, you accidentally like shoulder check some guy, and it's a Yakuza, and he's like, "What? You're bumping into me? You want to fight, bro?" And he picks a fight with you, and you beat him up, and he's like the second fight in the game, so he's a joke. So you beat him up, and you're like, "Oh man, you're super strong." And then Majima walks in, and like at this point, and on the PS2, you don't know who this guy is. Like, he's dressed differently, and he has a name, so it's like, okay, this is going to be some important character. But he is nuts. Like, when you first meet him, like, Majima's pretty damn sober in Yakuza 0, but in 1, he is crazy. Like, so he sees this guy, he's like, "What? You were picking a fight with Kiryu?" And the thug is like, "Oh shit, that was Kiryu? I didn't know it was Kiryu." And Majima just starts, like, beating the crap out of him with an umbrella, and he gets ready to, like, straight up stab him with the pointy end before Kiryu intervenes, and he's like, "Okay, Majima, I think he's learned his lesson." And Majima's like, "Okay, buddy, but when you get, like, a Yakuza family of your own, you're gonna need to show him some discipline." And he just leaves, and you're like, whoa, okay. Now, in Kiwami, that happens. But as Majima starts to walk away, Kiryu says, "You're right, but I'll do things my way." And Majima's like, "Are you actively trying to disrespect me right now?" And he tries picking a fight with you, but you're not into it. Kiryu's like, "I have no reason to fight you." He's like, "Oh?" And he, like, slaps you. He's like, "How about now?" And you're like, "Nope, not gonna do it." Majima's like, "God damn it." So eventually Kiryu's like, "If I ever actually have a reason to fight you, then I'll do it, but now's not the time." And Majima's like, "Really? I am gonna hold you to that." And like in the next chapter, Majima Everywhere Mode starts, where like you come out of jail. They do a Super Metroid. Like, when you come out of jail, you lose all your EXP abilities, and Majima's like, "Oh man, you've gone soft. Well, I'm gonna keep fighting you until you like power up to what you originally were." So you could just encounter him. He's like Mr. Shakedown in Yakuza 0. Like, you could just run into him, and it's like, oh crap, you gotta fight Majima now. Now, the thing with that is, for fans of the series, this is super cool. But if this is your first game, I honestly feel that it diminishes some of Majima's impact. Because in Yakuza 1, you only see Majima 3 times in the entire game. And the second time you see him is the famous baseball batting cage scene where you learn, Pyro, you saw it in the movie, and the game has something similar. Yeah, the game has something similar, where the whole plot of the game revolves around protecting this little girl and trying to get her to find her mother, and like, it becomes, like, almost a meme in the series that she gets captured at least once each game. She gets captured a lot in 1 and 2, but when she first gets captured, you're like, ah, crap. So this one, like, and keep in mind, this is after I've played tons of side quests and looked for hidden items and stuff. I'm, like, 7 hours into the game right now. And so when I finally get to the story, this guy tells me, like this girl's been captured. Who did it? And this guy's like, I got some intel. It looks like a Mr. Goro Majima has her. And you're like, Majima? And this is a thing where the game knows that you might not even remember who this was. Because the last time you saw him was the very beginning of the game. And you're like 7-8 hours in now. So it does the Metal Gear Solid 4 thing where it flashes you a still image of his face. And I was like, oh shit, that guy? Like, the lunatic? He has the girl? Like, oh shit. So, like, and when you finally run into him in the batting cage, like, one of his men does something to piss him off, and he just beats him to death with a baseball bat right there. I'm like, this guy? Oh my god. But in Yakuza Kiwami, you run into him constantly. Constantly. So when the story fight comes up, you're like, oh, it's you again. So it doesn't have the same, like, oh man, that guy from the beginning, now I'm actually going to fight him, oh geez. So the impact is diminished. If you play Yakuza Kiwami having played the previous games, then Majima Everywhere mode is cool as shit. But if this is your first game ever, it's like, why does this guy have an Everywhere mode? Like, like the game assumes he's already a fan favorite, but if you're going in for the first time, it's not, like, you could be like, okay, alright, I guess I'll find out why this guy's important at some point. Like, it's just, that's just kind of how it is. I will say one thing about Majima Everywhere mode, though. There are some scripted instances of it, and they are amazing. Like, you'll occasionally get texts from Majima's subordinate, which gives you hints of, like, you better watch out, because he's going to be in such and such a location, and when he does that, you no longer run into him randomly, you have to find him. But I've done 2 of these, and they're great. The first time, you get a warning, like, you'd better not pass in front of Millennium Tower, like, with, like, if you're unconfident, you better not have any weapons on you if you pass in front of Millennium Tower. So I do, with the weapon, and you hear, like, stop right there, Kiryu-chan, and, like, in the name of the law or whatever, and Kiryu's like, ah, damn it, some asshole officer is throwing his weight around, but then he's like, wait, Kiryu-chan? And he looks around, you just see Majima, like, in a police officer's uniform, and he's like, I better search you for anything suspicious, and if he finds a weapon on you, you're like, oh, such a dangerous thing you have on you. How could you do this? Well, now I'm obligated to step in. And he starts fighting you. And, like, every time you fight an enemy, it says who they are, like, you know, drunkard, or, like, menacing goons, or, like, Yakuza. So it says Officer Majima. It's like, yes. And the other one I've done is the greatest thing ever. I got a text saying, there's this girl in this, one of the cabaret clubs, the hostess clubs, who's, like, a real nuisance, and I kind of honestly want her to quit, but she says she won't quit until she sees someone who's, like, super amazing, so maybe you could go check it out. I'm like, okay. So I go to a hostess club, and Majima is just full-on, like, wearing makeup badly. Like, he has too much... he has, like, too much,
You're
like,
not fooling anybody, buddy.
Yeah, well, he's not trying to. Like, he's still wearing his eye patch, he's still got his beard, he's wearing a dress, all his tattoos are showing everywhere. I'm like, how did you get yourself to be allowed to be a hostess here? So, like, what it's really funny, though, because, like, Majima's just like, wow, you were expecting to see a woman here, and now you got me. You must be pretty mad. He must be mad enough to fight. Am I right? And you're like, no, I'm gonna go through this. And you could actually go through, like, a hostess dating sequence with Majima, and it's the greatest thing I've ever seen. And when you finally fight him, he calls himself Goromi, because his name is Goro Majima, so Goromi is his girl name. So when you go out and fight him, it just says Goromi, and you just fight Majima wearing women's clothing, and it's freaking bizarre. But, like, that sequence, like, that whole sequence is fantastic, because you still have the stupid animations that, like, all the girls do, like, oh, the tee-hee, and they put their hands over their mouths, and Majima just does that. Like, the animations are the same just for him. It's great.
That's awesome.
And, like, every time you do a dating sequence, after a time it says, oh, looks like time's up. Do you want to extend your sequence? And you could do that once. And I'm like, yes, I do want to do that. Just, like, continue it. Like, drinks for the both of us. It's so good. So Yakuza Kiwami is looking to be highly entertaining. Again, if it's your first game into the series, for the story you're fine, but, like, the game assumes you already know Yakuza to a degree where, like, it'll make references to Zero, and again, it pushes Majima so hard. And if you don't know anything about Yakuza, you won't know why, but you'll roll with it. But like I've played the PS2 game, so it's like, now I have this mode. So it's a different experience for everybody. But in any case, that's been my week. So how about you, Vyse?
For me, it's the usual. I'm continuing on with Horizon Zero Dawn. I've been really waiting to talk to Pyro about it because I know you really liked it.
I loved it. I haven't played the DLC yet. I'm really looking forward to it, but like my girlfriend's still playing the new Nier on it, and
gotcha.
I have other games to play, but I did really enjoy it. It's like it gets repetitive, but I really like the world. I really like the story. And I just really love destroying the robots.
Yeah, the hunting is probably the best part of the game. I really enjoy it. The robots, like once you get to the mid game, are very dangerous. You need to know how to handle them.
When I played the game, I thought the robots were really annoying, and then once I really got the mechanics down and got better equipment. Like I don't know if you got it yet, but you get equipment that like explodes pieces off of them.
Yeah, and that's very important.
Once you learn how to use like the traps better, and it gets so much cooler just taking down these creatures.
I had a ton of fun using the rope caster and like anchoring like the flying enemies down, and also like the really dangerous big enemies. Like that's basically the only way you can survive against them, because they're just going to charge and kill you. So I've been having a ton of fun doing that. I did one of the unique hunts against Red Maul, for the hunting lodge, and that was a lot of fun. That was a great battle. It was really neat. So I'm really enjoying it. I got all the tall necks in the regular part of the game. I haven't done the Frozen Wastes tall neck yet, but I got all the regular tall necks.
I mean, this isn't really a spoiler, but they do. It seems like they set up the end for like a sequel, and I'm really hoping they do, because I really want to know more about that world.
Yeah, I think the game has a long tail. I think it got, despite it being not having like the the best first week ever, it's having a lot of people talk about it now.
It had the problem of coming out when Zelda came out
the same day.
Now that it's like now that people are hearing about it more and they've beaten Zelda.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Now they've
more
beaten
people
Zelda.
are buying it now, so I hope that it improved its sales enough that it can get a sequel.
I also really like the characterization. You have 3 dialogue choices, but they don't really affect the story. They really just affect the way that you perceive your character, or how you want your character to be perceived in the world. And I think that's a unique take, because it doesn't really, you're not picking like a Paragon or what's the other Renegade. You're not picking like a good or evil path. You're more like, how do I want as the controller of this avatar, how do I want her character to be seen and perceived as in the world? So you get 3 choices. You get an aggressive one, you get an aggressive choice, you get a heartfelt choice, or something, where
like an emotional
one. Yeah, exactly. And then there's the smart choice, and I've always played Aloy as the smart choice, because I like her using her deduction in it, and
I think I did that too.
It just seems natural. She's just great as a smart character, I think. But sometimes you're forced into an aggressive or emotional response even after that, because that's all, which is kind of cool too, because sometimes what's logical doesn't really matter. So it's really neat that you could do that in this game, and it also helps you not typecast the way you want a female character to be perceived. Like, she's not always going to make the emotional response, like in previous years, she's going to and you're not the typical good guy either. You're just, in this one you could just be
trying
a
to
smart
survive.
person. Yeah, a smart person that survives and does things like, because they think it's the way it should go.
Mm-hmm.
So I really
think
like
my
that.
favorite scene from that game was the test. When all the people had to do the test. I felt like, I know that most of it was scripted, but I felt like I was really involved in that test, and like all the different things that happened and how she took the separate path. Like it felt so cool.
It was also neat how they introduced the characters there, even though no spoilers, but it was cool that they introduced those characters the way they did.
Yeah.
Because it got you attached to them in a short amount of time. So I did want to move on and say that I did some testing of my Famicom joystick that I bought at MagFest. And I played the most important game that you need a good joystick for Famicom. It just doesn't work with a controller, and that's Star Soldier. And the reason why it doesn't work well with a controller is because in that game in particular, you can fire as quickly as you could press the button. And barely any other shmup allows you to do that even later on.
Usually it's based on number of bullets. You can only shoot until you have like 5 bullets out, and then you have to wait.
Yeah, like Mega Man has like 2 or 3 bullets on screen at a time.
And that game is more of a score attack game rather than beat the game kind of game. So you're trying to shoot everything you can on the screen while you can. So the quicker that you're shooting, the better it is, because there are certain items that take a lot of shots before you collect them for points, and it's really hard to do it effectively with a controller. So I use that, and it's working great. It's really cool. So I'm really glad that's panning out, because it was not a cheap joystick. It was $100.
Nice.
So
yeah.
And I was happy about it.
Nice.
I also tested my other joysticks. I on the Switch, because I recently got a Brook converter for my Switch. So there's been a lot of shmups released on the Switch. So I wanted to check it out, and I also played some Samurai Showdown too. So
Samurai Showdown.
Going along with that, and they work great. I did want to say I got a recent care package from our friend from Ireland,
nice.
Retro Gamer, and he for those who've been listening a long time, he's my friend that visited from Ireland back in July, and he was on for an episode and a recon, and he ended up giving me like a thank you box, which was over the top. He gave me so much candy, like so much candy from Europe. Like it was just a Cadbury out the wazoo. It was awesome. It was really cool. I brought a small fraction of it to MagFest. Actually, Lotus had a chance to eat some of the cookies, but it was phenomenal. But along with that, he gave me. It's unassuming, but he gave me probably one of the coolest gifts I've ever gotten, like video game wise. It's a game called Trip World. Are you guys aware of what this game is?
No.
Nope.
Okay. So are you aware of the highly sought after Sunsoft games at the end of the Nintendo and Famicom's lifespan? You have Mr. Gimmick and Euphoria.
Nope.
I think I've heard of at least Mr. Gimmick.
Okay, you were there when I bought Mr. Gimmick for Famicom, I think, at Noticon.
That might have been, yeah.
So basically, they're highly polished platformers that are use the system to their fullest, and have really awesome music. Mr. Gimmick in particular is really awesome because you're this little guy. It's kind of like a Kirby game almost. In a lot of ways, but you're this guy, a little lizard guy who can generate a star above his head.
That's just called Gimmick, isn't it?
It's called Gimmick or Mr. Gimmick.
Okay.
It's like Gimmick-san.
No, I've seen that game run in like Games Done Quick runs, and like
it's amazing.
The movement and the surprising physics in that game are crazy.
It's an amazing game. It has its own sound chip. Like
oh wow!
Like they made it very special. It was a very expensive game when they made it. It has like it has special hardware in it. And has all this like physics in it and really neat stuff. What you could do with the star is ridiculous. You throw it and it bounces all around, but you can also ride it.
Yeah, you jump on it quickly, and like again, if you're really good at that game, you can do some stuff that you wouldn't have assumed you could do.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of shortcuts built into the game. Like it actually. They actually want you to find them. They knew you could do them. You could do all these like trick shotting stuff, and you think you're getting away with something, and you think you're breaking the game. If you do it, you in this one level, you can get to the boss so quickly that he's still sleeping.
Yeah, and you just push him off the cliff.
And you can just push him off the ledge.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
But like if you approach him normally, he's awake. You know,
it's like the opposite of the end in MGS3.
Yeah, if you're quick enough, you'll catch him asleep and just push him off. And you can't do this by normal means. You have to have like superhuman ability to get like to pull off the move in order to get there. But if you do it, the game knows that you did it.
Yeah,
which is like the play testing for this game must have been ridiculous. But anyway, the Euphoria is a Metroidvania put out by Sensoft that's very similar. It did not come out in the United States either. So both of those games only came out in Europe and Japan. And Gimmick only has that special sound chip in Japan. And Euphoria is like a really awesome Metroidvania kind of game that was released around the same time, still has awesome music and great gameplay. So they're really sought after collector's items, especially Euphoria in English, because it came out in English in one European country out of all the European countries that it was released in. I think it was Finland. So like you find a ridiculously low print run of a really late released NES game, right? So anyway, all those games are worth like $200-$300. They also released a game that is of its ilk, like very technically savvy game that has great gameplay, fantastic sound, great graphics for the original Game Boy before it died. And it only came out in Europe and Japan. He got me a copy of this. It routinely sells for $250, cart only.
Wow.
Just to give you an idea. It's one of the most sought-after Game Boy games, other than Shantae. It's probably the most sought-after one. So, he gave me that.
He's a keeper.
Yeah. Well, he keeps trying to pay me back for a couple of the games that I got him. I got him a copy of Metal Warriors for SNES, which is a very hard to find game, and also I got him a copy of Earthbound. So like, he's been trying to like pay me back for that Earthbound ever since. I'm like, dude, you don't have to pay me back. I just want to do something nice for you, because he literally cried when he received the Earthbound that I gave him. So
oh wow,
yeah,
nice.
it just like meant that much to him.
Not nice that he cried, but nice that
it had that kind of
emotions.
impact. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. And real quick here, I went to a used video game store and picked up a few games that I hadn't seen in a while. I picked up the original Bushido Blade because a lot of people are talking about that game recently, particularly on Retronauts and a couple other places. And I really wanted to play it because it's one of the most unique fighting games out there. It can be like one-shot duels. So
yeah.
I have a feeling that game is going to soar in popularity, and it's going to be hard to find a copy of that pretty soon. So looking forward to that. I got Trauma Team, which was the last Trauma Center game ever released for Wii. And a game called Red Ninja, which I heard didn't get up the best reviews, but I've always been curious about.
That one surprises me that you got that one, because I remember
I don't think I've heard of that.
Oh, it wasn't a launch title, was it? It feels like it was early, but like I that was a game I'd only ever seen on the Xbox, the original Xbox, and like it was very rare that I saw it on the PS2, and I finally got a copy, and it's got creative ideas, but it's pretty clunky execution, to be honest. Yeah. The basic idea is that you fight with basically like a string with a weight at the end, and usually what you do is you try to like just basically like jump over people and just cut their heads off with your like garrote wire level of string. And you could also use it to like Spider-Man swing. Not quite Spider-Man swing, but you could use it to like get places as well. And there's like a particularly creative kill you do on one or two bosses where you need to like latch onto them, jump over a beam, and then drop down the other side of the beam, so you like hoist them up. And like you would never think to do that because the game doesn't really tell you about that until like that moment. But I guess I would say it was worth having played, but I wouldn't play it again. It's like, eh.
I kind of bought it because it was cheap and it looked interesting. So I just
the cover's probably the coolest part about the game. Like the game's all right. Like it's not something you'd really want to jump on, but it's it's one of those things you could show your friends. I'll bet you haven't heard of this. Like,
yeah, exactly. And one last thing, one major thing here. I tested out a emulator, an Android emulator called Nox App Player, and I was very happy to have found this. It's a very easy to use Android emulator that you could use on PC that interfaces directly with the Google Play Store and will run the games that you've bought. So I did this, and it has a number of emulation features. Like you can keybind certain parts of the screen, like if there's like a virtual D-pad or something like that, you can keybind it. So you could do WASD on like areas of the screen.
That's pretty nice.
Which is really neat. So you could basically play any touch screen game if you do a little bit of setup with it. So the reason
is this free or is it pay?
Free, totally free.
Oh, wow.
It works great. And so the reason why I did this is because I've been recently thinking about playing some of the original Dragon Quest games. And even though there was a DS remake of 4, there are no remakes on DS or anything else, for that matter, of 1, 2, and 3. The last remake that was released, I think, was the Game Boy Color versions of those. But they remade basically all of the Dragon Quest games before the 3DS for phones. Now, they don't have controller support. So I was a little miffed by that, and it's a game where you move up and down on a grid. So it's not exactly easy to use a touchscreen. To use a virtual D-pad on it. It's a little annoying. So I saw this, and I was like, okay. And I tried it out with Dragon Quest 1, which has a great remake for mobile. And it worked great. It was awesome. And I was playing it on the big screen and everything. And apparently the best version of 4 and 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, I should say. 1, 2, 3, and 4 are on mobile. Apparently the mobile version of 4 is better than the DS one because it adds like team talk, kind of like the Tales of games do.
Like those little
the interludes,
like the skits, I think they call them.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So apparently it adds a lot of the characterization to the 4th game. So and that's one of the games where it means the most. Because I think it's one of the games where the first game where you can have relationships in that one. So it's really neat. So I'm looking forward to playing games like that. I probably wouldn't. I haven't tested it with a shmup or anything actiony. I'm not sure whether it'll run at the pace you want it to, but an RPG it'll be just fine.
Yeah.
Like a turn-based RPG like that. So I'm looking forward to that because I had a lot of fun setting it up and it was really easy too. Like most emulators are a pain in the ass, and this was great.
Yeah, I used to use BlueStacks, and that was a pain to use.
Yeah, no, this was solid. Like I knew how to work it like almost immediately. So it was great. I didn't need to tweak it. It was Awesome. So I definitely recommend it to anybody out there who is kind of hating that something is stuck on on mobile and also doesn't have controller support. Like you can use a controller on the like the Sonic Deluxe versions that they made of Sonic 1 and Sonic 2. Those actually have controller support. So if you go through the trouble, you should play it that way. But these Dragon Quest games don't have that. So it was the delight. So we can move on to a question here, just so we can finish up. We're a little long in the tooth.
Yeah, so this one is from Fakafon. What was the lamest way a villain or an antagonist has been defeated in your opinion? Books, movies, games, whatever. Just what's the lamest way some villain or antagonist has been defeated? One of my, Fakafon's, personal favorites is Scissorman being completely outdone by throwing a thin blanket at him. Because you know in the Clock Tower games, if you ever get caught by the enemy, it's like, so you either run out of the room or you activate a trap. So one of them is you just, like, whatever you can click on if your mouse cursor changes color, like, all right, I'll try this. So you can just take, like, a bed sheet and just throw it at him, and just the sheet just kind of falls on him. And it's just like, and he can't see, and you just get past him. And it's like, really? Like, that did it? Like, all right. So, yeah, you guys have any amusing, like, lame ways a villain's been taken out? I can think of one. It's not really a villain. Like, it's just a stormtrooper. But did you guys see the Star Wars Holiday Special?
Yes.
I did not.
Okay, because, like, it's not good. Lucas despises it. But, like it's impossible to get officially. The only reason we can get it at all now is that somebody taped it when it was on TV. So if you ever watch the Star Wars Holiday Special, you'll see weird, like, 70s, 80s commercials of things that you don't even know what they are. But there's this one stormtrooper who's in like the Wookiee's house, and Han Solo's there, and he's like, hey, you guys don't move, you're under arrest or whatever. And it just looks stupid because the stormtrooper is standing like by a fence, like over a precipice, and so is Han Solo. And this is hard to describe on a podcast, but like what was supposed to happen was either Han Solo throws him over the ledge or he gets the guy to fall off the ledge. But Han Solo kind of just jukes to one side. It looks like he's going to go somewhere, and he goes like, oh, and just kind of fakes it. And the stormtrooper responds in kind, like, oh, is he going that way? And he just kind of just jumps off the freaking cliff himself like an idiot. And it just looks really stupid, and it's kind of funny. It's not a villain, but like, that was really funny to me. Like, come on, that was your action. That's your one action scene in the entire movie.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of these, but they're like meant to be funny.
Okay.
Like, I don't think I'm ruining anything for anybody at this point in time, but like the original Scooby-Doo movie was hilarious. I don't know if anybody saw this.
Well, that I haven't seen the movie, but wasn't that whole thing like making fun of, but also paying homage to the source material? Because there were lots of like winks.
James Gunn actually wrote that movie. I don't know if you knew that.
That's pretty good. No, because one thing I knew was that they made fun of like how Shaggy's always, like, people now always say like, oh, Shaggy man, he's so high all the time, and like there's a part where it shows tons of smoke coming out of the mystery machine, and you can hear Shaggy in it, and then you see inside he's just got a barbecue. It's like, I fooled you. like stuff like that.
Yeah, well, in this one, like, they find out who the bad guy is, that's always like a surprise, and you can always guess.
Well, this is an actual surprise.
So the bad guy was actually just Scrappy-Doo, which is hilarious, and they just kick him, and that's how they beat him.
Oh, that's how they... Oh, I knew he was the bad guy. I didn't know they just kicked him. That's great. Well, no, because that itself was a great joke, because everybody hated Scrappy-Doo, and like the movie's backstory showed that like the characters didn't really like him either, and it was basically like the bad guy of The Incredibles. He was like, "Hey man, fuck you! Like, I guess I'm gonna become a villain now." Like, it was like one of those deals.
But other than that, I mean, I have a hard time trying to pick something out.
Well, actually, there is one YouTube video you can look up. I forgot what it's called, but it's something like Mortal Kombat lamest death or best death ever or whatever. It was from Mortal Kombat Special Forces, but I think it was Jax's ending, where like the nature of the death wasn't lame, but the execution is actually laugh out loud funny with how quickly the lines are like in rapid succession. Like it sounds like they're cutting themselves off almost. Like you're doing a little too close together. If this were a movie, you would do a retake. But like one of the bad guys, I forgot who it was, just like throws Sonny off a cliff, and his laugh is the funniest damn thing. It's like like it literally sounds like that. And then Jax I'm telling you, look it up. And then Jax comes up and he's like, "What? No!" So he like holds the guy over the cliff himself, and the guy's like, "You can't do this. This is brutality." And Jax is like, "No, it's a fatality." And he drops him off, and the guy goes like, "Oh yeah!" It is hysterical. Like how. Again, it could have been a kind of cool scene, but it was done so dumb. It's the best.
Yeah, I can't think of any either. I mean, like Vyse said, unless it's a villain that was meant to die in a stupid way, like I really can't think of many that I thought was lame that was not meant to be stupid.
Oh, actually, you know what? This is another Mortal Kombat one, but this is from Mortal Kombat Annihilation, the movie. Where that movie was like an all-star cast of like not the actors, but like every character in the game that they could get into the movie, even if it were for a quick cameo, they would try to do it. And but like the big bads who you always see talking with each other and smiling, like, yeah, we control the situation. It was always Motaro, Shiva, kind of Sindel, and Shao Kahn, and I think Ermac was with them too. And Shiva is kind of like Goro. She's a four-armed Shokan warrior, and she always had dialogue scenes with Motaro. Even though the movie was dumb, the fact that Shiva and Motaro hated each other was actually a nod to the lore and the instruction manual. I actually got a kick out of that. They don't explain it in the movie at all, but like if you read the instruction manual of Mortal Kombat 3, then you would know. But Shiva never actually fights. And then, like, the characters, like, Liu Kang and Kitana just beat Baraka. And that was kind of a lame fight. And then they drop him into a fire pit. And then, like, Liu Kang saves Kitana from, like, this hanging cage she was in. And they're like, okay, let's get out of here. And then Shiva finally comes in. She's like, this party's over or something like that. And she comes in like, now you gotta fight me. And then immediately the hanging cage just drops down on her and kills her, and there was no fight. And it's like, oh dude, come on. Like I mean, other characters went down in lame ways, but they were throwaway characters. But the way Shiva was set up in the movie, like, Motaro finally got his cool fight. Like, I'm waiting for Shiva, and just, nope. It's like, alright, bye, I guess.
Well, it's kind of like No Country for Old Men. I mean, but that was supposed to be...
Well, that movie was like, shit happens.
Disappointing.
Yeah, like that movie is just like, stuff happens and sometimes you're not ready for it. So like, there weren't any really lame deaths in that movie. It was just like, maybe disappointing for the...
Unfulfilling.
Yeah, like disappointing for the viewer, but like, sorry man, sometimes you just get shot when you're not looking. Like, what do you want from me? Like, but like in Mortal Kombat, where the whole draw is cool fights, and it just didn't happen, it's like, oh...
Yeah. Well, I think we covered that pretty well. So for this week, that will be our show. We want to thank our fan who contributed a question this week. And please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own on our YouTube and SoundCloud pages. Sorry for the frog in my throat. I'm getting over a cold.
Yeah.
While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Thursdays on our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the in-depth look at this week in our lives. Finally, you can friend me as VyseTheBold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, Twitter, and Battle.net.
And as for me, you could follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, or even selecting upcoming games for me to play, then consider swinging by my Patreon account at patreon.com/LotusPrince. And by the way, I did forget to mention this during the main part of the podcast, but my Resident Evil 1 version comparison video finally went public, so if you weren't aware of it before, you could check it out now. It's like an hour and 5 minutes, and I busted my ass making it.
It's epic, though. Yeah. It goes into the utmost detail.
Yeah, so like Vyse, that video...
Worth it.
Yeah, Vyse, that video I was telling you about, where like behind the scenes, where like how I edit a video, that video by itself is like the editing part is like 25-30 minutes long for like 40 or 50 seconds of footage. It's
Jesus.
It's ridiculous.
You don't get paid enough for this.
All right.
And you can find me as PyroJackFrost and or Cloud08540 on BattleNet, PSN, Xbox Live, and elsewhere.
All right, guys. We'll catch you on Thursday.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye, everyone.